I remember the moment too clearly. I was sitting in the living room, scrolling through my phone, when I saw it. Pictures of Muffin, my younger daughter Laya's cat, plastered all over Facebook and Instagram. Balloons, a pink cake with "Happy 5th Birthday Muffin" written in glittery frosting, family and neighbors all smiling in our backyard. My wife was in one picture holding that cat like a baby, while Laya laughed in another as Muffin opened presents. Everyone looked happy, proud even. I chuckled at first. It seemed silly but harmless. Just another one of Laya's over-the-top ideas. People throw dog birthday parties all the time now. Why not a cat? But then, in the middle of all that noise and color, it hit me like a punch to the chest. That same day wasn't just Muffin's birthday. It was Ava's birthday too. My firstborn, my oldest daughter, 26 years old, and somehow, once again, we had forgotten her. No call, no text, no card, nothing. The truth was impossible to ignore. We had celebrated the cat more than our own child, and even as I kept scrolling, pretending it was fine, my chest tightened. Because deep down, I knew this wasn't the first time. This time, though, something felt different. Like I had just watched the exact moment my daughter finally decided she didn't belong with us anymore. Seeing Muffin's party online pulled me straight back to when my girls were little. Ava was the kind of kid every parent swears they want. Quiet, thoughtful, always doing the right thing without needing to be asked twice. She didn't beg for toys at the store. She didn't throw tantrums when she didn't get her way. She just carried herself with this strange maturity, even as a child. Leia was the opposite. Loud, impulsive, stubborn. She'd talk her way out of chores, cry if she didn't get the bigger slice of cake, and somehow always turn trouble into a joke. And here's the truth I hate admitting. We rewarded it. My wife and I used to laugh and say, "She's just creative. That's her spirit." Meanwhile, when Ava came home with a perfect report card or a science fair ribbon, I'd pat her on the shoulder and tell her not to brag. I thought I was keeping her humble. Really, I was telling her that her effort wasn't worth celebrating. I convinced myself Ava didn't need the spotlight. She was the strong one. She could handle less attention because she wasn't fragile like her sister. But now, looking back, I see what that mindset really did. Every time we made excuses for Laya, every time we brushed off Ava's accomplishments, we were teaching her a cruel lesson. That being good, steady, reliable, meant being invisible. And the worst part? I let it happen. Not once or twice, but for years, until forgetting her birthday didn't feel like an accident anymore. It felt like the final proof of a pattern I had helped create. The night of Muffin's party, I carried the cake out myself. Pink frosting, glitter letters spelling out, "Happy 5th Birthday Muffin." Little candy mice lined up along the edges. Everyone clapped and laughed as if we were at some kind of milestone celebration. My wife snapped pictures, neighbors cheered, and Leia beamed like she'd just thrown the event of the year. At first, I smiled too. It was ridiculous, but harmless. At least, that's what I told myself. People around here throw birthday parties for dogs and cats all the time. Why should this feel any different? And then, out of nowhere, a memory hit me. Ava, at 10 years old, sitting at the kitchen table with a single cupcake I'd grabbed from the grocery store on my way home. No balloons, no friends over. Just her, blowing out one candle while I muttered something about being busy with work. The sound of laughter around me faded. I was standing in a crowded, decorated room, yet all I could picture was my older daughter's face that night, trying to smile, trying not to look disappointed. That's when it clicked. In 26 years, we had never once thrown her a celebration like this. Not for her 10th birthday. Not for her 18th. Not even for her 21st, when most parents are out buying their kid their first legal drink. But here we were, singing "Happy Birthday" to a cat. And as I set the cake down and listened to the chorus of voices around me, I realized something awful. It wasn't just about forgetting Ava's birthday this time. It was about the years of choosing noise and novelty over consistency and quiet. About how easy it had been to cheer for Laya's chaos while letting Ava's steadiness disappear into the background. That ridiculous cat cake wasn't just frosting and sugar. It was a mirror. And the reflection staring back at me wasn't something I wanted to see. About a week after Muffin's party, a small package showed up at our doorstep. No return address, just my name written in Ava's handwriting. I knew before I even opened it that it wasn't going to be good. Inside was an album. Not the kind filled with family vacations or smiling group shots. This one was brutal in its simplicity. Each page held a picture of Ava on her birthday, year after year. Her 8th, sitting at the kitchen table with a grocery store cupcake. Her 13th, holding a sheet cake with the wrong name scribbled on it, someone else's written over in icing. Her 17th, no cake at all, just a candle stuck into a muffin, the kind you buy from a gas station on the way home. Every photo carried the same quiet message. She was alone, even when she wasn't supposed to be. Tucked in the back cover was a single sheet of paper. Her handwriting again, steady, deliberate. This is what you left me with. This is what my birthdays looked like while you celebrated everyone else, even a cat. I won't ask for your love anymore. That was it. No dad or mom. No demand. No curse words. Just the cold truth laid out in black and white. I sat at the kitchen table staring at that album for what felt like hours. My wife tried to say something, to call it dramatic, but I couldn't. Because I knew it wasn't dramatized. It was evidence. Evidence that every choice we'd made, every excuse we gave, had piled up into something Ava couldn't carry anymore. I didn't cry. I didn't yell. I just went quiet. Because what do you even say when your child hands you a lifetime of neglect in a box? And for the first time, I understood. She wasn't trying to start a fight. She was done fighting. After the package arrived, I braced myself for the fallout. I expected Ava to call, maybe to yell, maybe to finally unload all the things she'd swallowed for years. Part of me even hoped for it, because at least then, she'd still be engaging with us. But nothing came. No texts, no emails, no late-night voicemail. Just silence. And that silence cut deeper than any shouted argument ever could. It meant she wasn't looking for answers anymore. She wasn't waiting for an apology. She had already decided we weren't worth the energy. My wife tried to brush it off. She muttered things like, "She's just being dramatic. Ava's always been too sensitive." But I knew better. This wasn't sensitivity. This wasn't drama. This was the sound of a wound bleeding for decades, and our daughter finally realizing she didn't need to stand there bleeding in front of us anymore. The hardest part wasn't the absence of her voice. It was the absence of a chance. With every quiet day that passed, I felt that chance slipping further away, replaced by a truth I didn't want to face. We had raised 2 daughters, but only one of them ever felt like our child. And the other? The other had finally stopped asking to be seen. The truth is, I always knew. Maybe not in words, maybe not in the arguments we never had. But I knew Ava was hurting. When she was 6, I caught a moment I can't erase from my head. She was sitting at the kitchen table in her little pajamas, staring at a plain grocery store cake we hadn't even lit yet. No balloons, no friends. Just a dim light over the stove and my daughter waiting for someone to notice her. For some reason, I pulled out my phone and snapped a picture. I don't know why. Maybe I thought I'd use it as motivation to do better next year. Maybe I just didn't want to forget that look on her face, half hopeful, half resigned. I printed that picture and kept it in my desk drawer at work. For years, every time I saw it, I told myself, next year, I'll make it right. Next year, I'll throw her the party she deserves. But next year came and went, again and again. I got busy. Laya needed attention. My wife said Ava didn't really care about parties anyway, and so the photo stayed hidden, like some kind of private confession I never said out loud. That picture has followed me for 2 decades, and now, looking back, I realize what it really was. Not a reminder, but a receipt. Proof that I saw her pain and chose to ignore it. And no matter what I do now, I can't shred it, can't burn it. Because it's not just a picture. It's evidence of every broken promise I never kept. Not long after the album arrived, I started noticing Ava's posts pop up on my feed. Lisbon, Croatia, a picture of her on a rooftop with new friends, laughing over glasses of wine. Another shot of her hiking along a cliff somewhere in Portugal, hair blowing in the wind like she had finally figured out how to breathe without us. At first, I told myself it was just travel pictures. Everyone posts them. But deep down, I knew what I was really looking at. Ava wasn't just sightseeing. She was showing the world that she could build a life without her family in it. And she was right. She didn't need me to be proud of her anymore. She didn't need me to cheer her on. She had learned how to celebrate herself in ways we never did. It stung in a way I can't quite explain. I used to think my role as her father was permanent, that no matter how distant things got, I'd always be the person she leaned on. But as I scrolled through those pictures, I saw the truth. I wasn't a foundation anymore. I was a bystander. It's one thing to lose your child's trust. It's another to watch them learn they never needed it in the first place. My wife grew bitter when Ava started posting more. She'd roll her eyes at the captions, call them passive-aggressive, and insist Ava was just trying to make us look bad. Laya didn't help either. One night, she tweeted, "Some people just can't handle other people's happiness." I knew exactly who she meant, and as much as I wanted to tell her to take it down, to stop throwing fuel on the fire, I kept my mouth shut. I'd spent years avoiding conflict with my family. Why stop now? But in the quiet moments, I waited. I waited for my phone to light up with Ava's name. I waited for the voicemail where she'd finally let loose, screaming at me for every forgotten birthday, every excuse, every time we made her invisible. I wanted that fight. I wanted the chance to say something back, even if it was messy, because anger would have meant she still cared enough to argue. Instead, nothing. Night after night, the phone stayed dark. No calls, no texts, no second chances. And that silence told me more than words ever could. Ava wasn't angry anymore. She was gone. In the end, silence forced my hand. I couldn't keep carrying the weight of that album, that picture in my desk, all the excuses I'd stacked over the years. So one night, after everyone else was asleep, I sat down at the kitchen table with a blank sheet of paper. For the first time in my life, I told the truth. I wrote that Muffin's party had been Laya's idea, but that I was just as guilty because I didn't stop it. I admitted I'd carried that photo of her at 6 years old for 2 decades, proof that I had seen her pain and chosen to look away. I told her I had no defense, no excuses, only shame. And then I wrote the only thing I could. "I'm sorry. I don't expect forgiveness. I just need you to know that I see it now. I see you, and I should have seen you all along." By the time I finished, my hands were shaking. I slipped the letter into an envelope, walked it out to the mailbox, and stood there for a long time before letting it go. I had no idea if she would ever open it. No idea if she'd tear it up without reading, or if it would sit in some drawer for years, unopened. But for the first time, I wasn't writing for myself. I was writing to give her the one thing I'd failed to give for 26 years: acknowledgement. And as I let the envelope slide from my fingers, I realized the hardest part wasn't that I might never get a response. It was that I didn't deserve one. But then the cameras swung their way during the introduction, and I saw it. The tightness in Mom's smile. The way Dad kept glancing sideways to make sure the red light of the camera was still on them. It wasn't pride. It was performance. And Elise knew it too. When her category was announced, she stood up gracefully, Nathan by her side. The room applauded, and the cameras followed her down the aisle. She passed within feet of our parents. Mom leaned slightly forward, as if waiting for Elise to acknowledge her, just for a second. But Elise never turned her head. Not once. She walked right past them, eyes fixed on the stage lights ahead. From where I sat, I could see everything. The eagerness in my parents' faces crumble into something brittle and stiff when they realized she wasn't going to give them what they wanted. No camera-ready smile. No, look at us, we're part of her success. Just silence. And in that silence, I understood something I probably should have realized a long time ago. Our family couldn't hide behind appearances anymore. Not at weddings, not at will readings, not under the blinding lights of a national award show. The truth had already been told, and it was too late to take it back. After the award show, I couldn't sleep. I kept replaying the image of Elise walking right past our parents, steady and unflinching, like she'd finally outgrown their gravity. And I realized something. For years, I had been their silent partner. I hadn't chosen the favoritism, but I had benefited from it. I got the attention, the opportunities, the second chances. And every time Elise was left out, I stayed quiet because silence was easier. That silence was my part of the problem. So I sat down at my desk, opened a blank document, and started writing. Not an email, not a text, an actual letter. I wanted her to feel the weight of it in her hands, something more permanent than another message she could scroll past. I wrote, "Elise, I don't need to tell you I was the favorite. You already know. You lived with the consequences of that every single day. I can't undo the way Mom and Dad treated you. I can't give back the birthdays they missed, the graduation seats they left empty, or the wedding day they chose not to show up for. But I can own the fact that I stood by while it happened. That I let myself believe you were just being too sensitive, when really, you were just telling the truth. I don't expect you to forgive me. I don't even expect a reply. What I want is the chance to be your brother, the kind I should have been all along. Not the version Mom and Dad held up, not the golden child, just someone real. If you'll let me, I'd like to start there." I mailed it the next morning. Didn't rehearse what I'd say if she never answered. I just knew I couldn't keep carrying the silence. Not anymore. Because if the empty seat taught me anything, it's that being silent is just another way of choosing the wrong side. I wasn't there the day Elise unlocked our grandfather's cabin for the first time. She went alone, and I only know what happened because she mentioned it briefly later on. Still, I can picture it clearly. The cabin sat on the edge of the property, tucked between tall trees that always looked a little haunting at dusk. Growing up, it was off limits. Grandpa's private space. Elise was the only one who ever got invited inside, back when she was a kid who actually listened to his stories. She told me the air smelled like old wood and ink when she opened the door. Dust floating in the sunlight, books stacked on every surface, a desk by the window with yellowing pages still waiting to be filled. And on that desk, an envelope with her name. Inside was a letter. His handwriting, shaky but deliberate. He'd written, "I always knew you were different, Elise. Different isn't bad. It's rare. Keep telling the stories no one else will, especially the ones that hurt." When she told me that line, I just sat there in silence. Because that was it. That was the recognition, the validation she had been starved of her whole life. Not from Mom, not from Dad, not even from me. From him. And it meant more than anything we could have given her. I don't know if Elise will ever fully forgive me. I don't know if she even should. But what I do know is that she doesn't need our parents' approval anymore. She has something better, a legacy of truth, one she earned herself. And for me, maybe that's the start of my own work, to finally break the pattern, to make sure favoritism, silence, and neglect stop here, with me. Because if Elise has taught me anything, it's this. Sometimes the loudest justice isn't revenge. It's simply refusing to stay invisible any longer. And I can live with that.